The team, I just remind you once again that we're here with Yekaterina. You know Yekaterina very well because you are corresponding with her and you have already been asking questions and getting very nice answers from her. I'm Maria, and when you come here, you will also meet Alena. The questions that we will cover today is, first of all, the COVID-19 update in Russia, then the visa application process, the arrival to Moscow, housing and accommodation issues, medical insurance, estimated living costs, then a body request, and finally, the pre-departure checklist. We will send you this presentation after we're finished today. You may take notes if you want, but basically you will have everything that we're showing to you at your disposal. To start with, Russia will resume regular air travel with several more countries, that is Belgium, Bulgaria, China, Cyprus, Ireland, Italy, Jordan, Liechtenstein, North Macedonia, and USA. So in our case, I guess there are quite a few countries that are important because you come from them and you see that you will be able to come to Russia. So all in all, the overall flights are resumed with 54 countries. The update on that, you can see the QR code that you can use to see the article about this this change that comes from the Russian government, and to I don't know, to look at any comments that they make about that else. So speaking of COVID update in terms of the what we are facing right now in Moscow and what you will have to face when you come here. First of all, about some requirements. So you will have to pass 2 PCR COVID-19 tests. One that should be no older than 3 days, that you should take it no more than 3 days prior to the arrival in Russia. And after you have arrived, you will have to pass a second PCR test. That's important that you pass it within 3 days upon the arrival. If you go to a private clinic, it is the price is between 2,500 and 300-500 rubles. In public clinics, it can be passed for free. Otherwise, besides the test, you will also be subjected to a 3-day quarantine that you will have to stay within, I don't know, either at the dorm or at the private housing, like or at the private apartment that you will rent. That's up to you. We'll also discuss that. But you will have to stay in a flat. Also, it is required that you wear masks, gloves, that you use sanitizers, and that you preserve social distancing in Moscow. There is actually a fine. I personally paid once a fine of 5,000 rubles, which is like not very little, for not wearing gloves. But honestly, gloves are not very popular because it's like not many people wear them, but masks definitely. Shops and restaurants, right now there is a new rule introduced that they will serve customers with vaccination certificates, usually that they present in the form of a QR code or negative PCR tests that have been taken no more than 72 hours before the visit to a restaurant. I'm not sure things are changing, so maybe by the end of August it will change. This rule has just been introduced recently. Otherwise, there is no curfew and no travel restrictions within Russia. Speaking of curfew, I don't know, maybe it's worth mentioning that restaurants close at 11, and that's the only kind of restriction, because otherwise you can go wherever you want in the city. Also, something that I think is important to know is that the government has introduced mandatory vaccination for all service workers, and specifically we are talking about about all the people who work within the education area. That is, all the teachers and all the staff you will be working with, you will have to deal with at the university, will be vaccinated by the time you come. So that's, I think, something important. Are there any questions about this part? Ekaterina, maybe because while I have the presentation, the slides on, I do not see the reaction. So Ekaterina, do you see what, any comments, any questions about that?
No, there is nothing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you still have any questions, just, take notes. We can come back to that later. Now about the visa application process. To apply for a visa, you will need a digital copy of a visa invitation and an acceptance letter, which is optional. You will get that by email, or some of you actually have already got that. With this visa invitation, which is actually your main official acceptance package, you go to the Russian consulate in your country, you apply for the visa. And that will be a single entry visa. That will be valid August through November, which is obviously not enough, because you remember that the calendar, the academic calendar within the fall semester goes until December, right? Which means that you come to Russia with a single entry visa, but then you apply for a multiple entry visa that will be valid November through January or July, if some of you are coming for a longer period. And you apply for this visa via the University Visa and Registration Center. You see the QR code for the web page of this center. So a couple of things to just keep in mind, although it seems obvious, but you remember that if you have a single entry visa, it means that you cannot go out of the country and come back. In this case, you would have to get another visa processed. That's for like one thing to remember, to have in mind. And the other is just probably this fall, we would not recommend those who are coming even on a multiple entry visa or have a multiple entry visa done in Russia. We would not recommend you to go out of the country just because of the rules that keep changing all the time. As you see, the rules about people coming from different countries. Some countries resume contacts with Russia and air flights, some stop. So I think that it would be just safer for this particular semester to stay in Russia for the whole time being, not to risk actually that you would leave the country and would not be able to come back because some rules would change because of the COVID. Okay, any questions about that?
There are three questions right now. So the first one is actually about PCR tests. So will we need to provide PCR tests even if we are vaccinated? I'm afraid yes. And so you will have to take the PCR test before you depart from your country, even if you are vaccinated, and you have to provide the results of this test upon your arrival. And within the first 3 days upon arrival, you will have to make another PCR test. So if you live in a dormitory, if you stay at one of HSE dormitories, you will be able to take this PCR test for free. If not, there is an option that you can take this PCR test at the airport right after your arrival. So the next question is, will we have to do a PCR test each 3 days for studying in school? No, this is just when you arrive. Within the first 3 days, you have to do a PCR test. But if you're asking about the thing that Maria mentioned about going to public places like restaurants or cafes or bars or whatever. Well, there is another option. If you have a vaccine, you have to have a proof or some sort of certificate, and you can show it, and then, well, that has to be okay, I guess. But no, you definitely don't have to do a PCR test every 3 days.
Yeah, maybe I could add that speaking of the certificates, actually, it's the way it's done is the QR codes. So I guess if, for example, you have been already vaccinated, then you'd have to go to a clinic and somehow, have it maybe approved, or so that you would get a QR code that would allow you to easily access any kind of public places like actually restaurants or cafes.
Yeah. So the next question is, if we do not wish to go out of the country during the exchange, a single entry visa is enough. No, unfortunately, that's not the case, because single entry visa is issued for 90 days. That is the maximum. And as you understand, 90 days is not the length of our fall semester. So the fall semester is actually longer than 90 days. So your first single entry visa is going to be valid only until the middle of November. So there is still a month and a half of studies left. So you will still have to apply for a multiple entry visa. But this is, well, that's what all exchange students go through. This is like a standard process. So it's nothing like rocket science, so it's okay. No worries about that. Yeah, and then the last question for now is, which vaccines count in Russia? That is a great question. So, well, we currently have 3 vaccines, 3 Russian vaccines, which definitely count. But then I guess that all the other vaccines are actually accepted because, well, currently, at the university, as Maria said earlier, all staff and faculty members are obligated to provide either vaccination certificates proving that you have been vaccinated, and all the vaccines that exist currently, like in Europe, in Asia, in Americas, are accepted. So if you have already had a vaccine in your country, I believe that this is going to be accepted, but we'll need to double check it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I guess I can move on, and then again, if you have still any questions, you're welcome to ask them at any point, right? So speaking of arrival to Moscow, obviously those dates are that we're providing here are approximate. The best time for the arrival dates would be the 19th of August to maybe like the 20th of August. The orientation session, that is to be confirmed, but obviously that will be at the end of August. And the semester dates, as you remember last time, we provided you with the academic calendar. So here, just to remind you of the main dates, that the semester goes from the 1st of September till the end of December, the 31st of December. What's important to have in mind is that some of the exams can be quite late in December, because we do not have like Christmas vacation at the end of December. So you could easily have some exams or some tests that would be like on the 25th or on the 30th of December. And the partial days that would be recommended starting on the 22nd, in case you have your exams earlier, because I mean it really depends on the courses, right? Because the schedule for the exams is designed by the by the offices, and so you just might have earlier exams. The latest could be the 3rd of January, because then there will also be the issue of I guess of visas, right? But you're totally welcome to celebrate the New Year's in Moscow. It's a very beautiful time. I mean, hopefully we'll have a lot of snow, because Moscow is very beautiful under snow. Any questions about that?
No questions about that. Just a quick comment from me. For all of you who will be able to apply and get the visa, the earliest date that you will be able to enter Russia is August 19th. So please do not purchase plane tickets before that date. Even for the 18th of August, you won't be able to cross the border. We have had such cases, and students had to either stay at the airport and wait until the date comes, or they had to travel back if the period was actually longer than like a couple of hours. And the latest day that you can leave Russia, if you're coming just for one semester, is January 3rd. So if you'd like to stay longer for like another semester, this is possible, and we'll be able to extend your exchange program if your home university coordinator doesn't mind that. But then you will have to stay again for the whole spring semester. It's not that we will be able to extend your visa for a couple more days or a couple more weeks, because we're very tied to the dates of the semester. So January 3rd is the last day when you can leave the country if you're coming just for one semester.
Okay, so speaking of the tickets, of the plane tickets, first of all, we would recommend you to book a flight with flexible dates or refund options, just because of, again, of the situation. We want to remind you that with the situation, with the COVID situation, you have to book exclusively direct flights, because it seems to me that we talked about it the previous time, that, for example, if your country has not resumed of air travel contacts with Moscow, with Russia, and you decide to go, for example, to an airport within a different country, still the custom officers will see that while you're crossing the border, and you probably will have to go back. So only citizens of a particular country who come from this from the cities within their countries are allowed to arrive to Moscow. And actually, I want to also remind you that the slide where I gave you the list of the countries with which Russia has resumed air connection, and I give you the QR codes. Within the article that you will find following this QR code, there are also lists of the cities within those countries from which you can come to Moscow. That might also be helpful. So only direct flights. The second thing is that you can choose any Moscow airport. Here on the picture, you can see the three main airports that have international flights. That would be Sheremetyevo, Vnukovo, or Domodedovo. Actually, there is no difference at all, because they're all located at a similar distance from Moscow, and they're all connected to the to Moscow, to downtown, and to the metro system through Air Express trains. So you can see underneath a very nice picture of the Air Express train and the QR code that provides you with a link to the timetable of the trains. So what is important here actually is that if you want to take a train, it would be helpful actually to know that it's only 500 rubles, which is less than 10 euros, right? How much would that be? 500. That would be around like 6 euros, right? So that's quite cheap. But you have to make sure that you get on this train, right? Because I think that the latest train departs at something like midnight. midnight. So the time of the flight is important, so that you'll be able, first of all, to catch the train. They actually run every half an hour, so that's like that. That's not the problem. I mean, you will not miss them if you go during the day. But also, when you come to Moscow, all the end stations are located near metro stations, and you would also want the metro station to be open right? And metro stations in Moscow close at 1 o'clock, 1 in the morning. So that's important that you arrive in Moscow at the time when the Air Express works and when the metro is also open. Any questions about that?
No questions about that. There's actually one more airport in Moscow, Zhukovsky. I just feel like I have to say it because if some of you stumble upon another Moscow airport that you cannot see here, it's just that we consider it a kind of a new addition to the Moscow transport system because it's actually located quite farther away compared to these three airports, and there is no connection via Air Express train. So it might be a bit trickier to get from that airport to the city center. And still, if you struggle with finding suitable flights, or if they're much more expensive compared to night flights, you still can come to Moscow during the night time. We do not recommend doing that because, well, for reasons that Maria mentioned just now, but still you will be able to get by taxi to the dormitory. And the price is also quite reasonable. Let's say I guess it's going to be, I don't know, 1,000 rubles per ride from the airport to the city center during the night, I guess.
Yeah, I would kind of doubt that because I mean the problem with arriving to the airport is that if you do not have like a mobile app with taxis, usually it's more expensive, but not like two. It
Oh,
probably
but
the
they
maximum
have,
would be.
yeah, they have Wi-Fi and like you can also, well, we will tell you, we will give you more information about how you can do that. There are at least three apps that you can use and you can order a taxi service. So we do not recommend you to just like get to a person standing at the airport and like hitch a ride. So we will
Because
provide you with that information.
that's usually much more expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
way actually Moscow has a very developed system of like it's of all kinds of apps that helps you to get to any kind of services, and specifically about taxis. Nobody hails taxis in the street anymore. There are several mobile apps that are competing, and you can use them. There are also car sharing. That's very helpful. That's very convenient, and that is also operated through a mobile app. And so, but I guess it will be difficult to just to arrive to Moscow and then figure out what kind of app to upload to take a taxi. So definitely it will be easier to use Air Express. I think one more thing that I would add about the metro system is that just for you to know, it closes at 1 o'clock, but actually at 1 o'clock they close the doors, but unlike in some other cities, like for example like in Paris, let's say, it doesn't mean that at 1 o'clock you're like chased outside in the street. At 1 o'clock the last train leaves from the last station on the line, and then it goes until the next last station. So if you are in the metro at 1 o'clock, you're inside the doors already, you can still get to a lot of places. Just make sure that you get to inside the metro before 1 o'clock. Okay, and I think that from here we can move on, right? So housing and accommodation. First of all, dormitories. And what's important to say is that all international students are entitled to a place at one of our university dormitories. There are quite a few of them. You can make a request through your HSE profile. Information about the dormitory of your stay will be available mid-August. That is you see the QR code of the page that provides all the information about all the dormitories, but we have quite a few of them, and usually it is decided throughout some time in summer which actually dormitory will be available for international students. So far we do not have this information. If you want, you can look through the list, but you don't know yet, and just as we don't know yet which dormitory you will reside in. Student bedrooms are shared and arranged on the basis of double occupancy. That's a nice picture there of one of the rooms. I'm not sure that, that you will have exactly the same room. You could have it in different colors. What's important also is that you would need a health certificate. Now that's a kind of a requirement for all the dorms. So we'll send you a template or a copy of a health certificate that you will have to have signed at your doctor. You need a signature, and you need it to be stamped by a physician in your home country. And you will be checked in the dormitory only if you have this health certificate with you. And the price of a dorm is maximum 1,700 rubles. So it's pretty comfortable in terms of price, I guess. Pretty affordable, right? So any questions about that?
We're going to be in quarantine in the dormitory with another person. Well, this past semester, we didn't have that many exchange students coming because the borders were majorly closed. And I believe that this semester, they managed to organize single placement for students to stay in quarantine, but then students still moved into double rooms. I can't say at this moment how it's going to be organized this time. Probably, yes, you will be with another person in a room, but at this moment, again, we cannot say for sure. Do we have to register for the dormitory independently, or is it sufficient if we have already specified the request for accommodation when registering? No, you do not have to do anything in addition to what you have already done. So if you ticked the box in your online application that you require the dormitory, a room in a dormitory, then that's going to be enough for now. Just to let you all know, we see all your questions and we'll get back to them in a bit.
Okay, so then I continue, right?
Yeah.
So, speaking of private housing, since some of you sometimes actually like to live not in a dormitory, but to rent an apartment, the university does not provide assistance in renting an apartment. We're still considering that maybe we'll do it in the future, but not presently. One kind of constraint that you have to face is that if you rent an apartment, you will need a registration. So what's difficult about it is that you have to go with your landlord to the registration office, line up for to get to the official person and to get this registration. So
and I would say that the hardest part in this is that you only have 10 days to provide the officials with the registration slip, which is actually not that much time. So yeah.
And so the thing is that for that you will need to find a landlord who would be speaking English and who would not be reluctant to actually go and go through this registration process with you. The price probably would be starting at 30,000 rubles a month. As you see, it's like more expensive. Also, from like what we know from our mobility students, that's not as high as in many other capitals of the world. And there are some recommendations that we could still make. That is, there is a Facebook group, Flats for Friends. It is in Russian, but you know you can Google Translate it and find some information there. And then, of course, you can use Airbnb, the locals. So some applications that will help you to find a good accommodation and rent an apartment if you wish so. Okay, any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Then getting to the issue, to the question of medical insurance. First of all, it is mandatory for the whole period of stay. Second, it should include tests, basic diagnostics, medical certificates, dental procedures, trauma assistance, and repatriation. So you should have that in mind. Then you can use your own, if you already have some medical insurance that covers medical services abroad, you can use it. You can purchase medical insurance in your home country. But there is also one more option, that is to come to Russia and purchase of the insurance from one of our partner companies. In this case, actually, it's really not very expensive. It's between 4,000 and 8,000, right, Ekaterina?
Yeah, let's say up to 10.
And yes, it provides, I mean, the Russian clinics nowadays, especially those who are working with those kind of insurances, are quite like good quality. So you're welcome to decide, as long as you do have this this insurance for the whole period of stay. Okay. So speaking of estimated living costs, here is the most important maybe. So housing, like we said, if it is a dormitory, then like 1,700. If it is off campus, like we said, it's, well, 20,000. That's really little. I don't know where you will live. Probably it's rather between 30 and 50,000 rubles. Health insurance, like we said, it's between 4, maybe up to 10. Food, personal expenses, approximately 10,000 to 20,000 rubles. Public transportation, it is about 800 rubles per month. I think that you get a student pass for this amount. One ticket for metro is something, right, like 50 rubles right now, right, if I'm not mistaken. Then cell phone internet connection, it's about 800 rubles per month. And of course, I think it's nowadays it's always recommended to get a SIM card, when a local SIM card. It will definitely be easier in terms and cheaper in terms of mobile connection and cell phone. Laundry, if you go to a laundromat, that would be between 100 and 200 rubles. Gym pass, if you decide to go to a off-campus gym pass, that's between 1,000 and 5,000. But there are also some facilities on campus. Taxi service, I didn't change it. That's actually taxi service nowadays went slightly higher in prices because there is not enough competition. So it's rather between 300 rubles, maybe like 400 rubles and 1,000 per trip within the city, depending on the hours. But if you have a driving license, I just remind you that we have a very good car sharing service. Several providers actually that you probably could use, as long as you also get the application, the app, and get an account with one of these companies. Movie tickets, well, okay, that's cheap, 150. I'd say like today it's more between 300 to like and 500.
Oh, actually go for 120.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And with extension, that would be 1,600. So the average basic expenses, and of course, we're talking about, like, if you do not go um, to Pushkin restaurant every day or to Vanilla restaurant every day, then it will be between 15,000 and 25,000 rubles. But of course, if you wish so, you can, lead a more luxurious lifestyle in Moscow. So, any questions or maybe some comments from Yekaterina?
No, there is a question. So, medical insurance is necessary for the visa application. They also provide medical insurance. Would you recommend that? It's actually up to you. So, you can purchase the medical insurance when you apply for your visa, but just make sure that the insurance that you purchase does include the coverage for the things that Maria mentioned and that we included in the previous slide. We will send the presentation to you. So your medical insurance absolutely has to cover repatriation expenses. It has to cover, basic diagnostics and tests. Well, dental service is up to you, but we of course recommend you to include that, to purchase medical insurance that includes that as well. So again, it's up to you. If the medical insurance does include those things, you can buy that one.
Any more questions?
No, not on this.
Okay. So, just a second.
Okay, next one. Does the dormitory have Wi-Fi included and a kitchen with plates, etc., and a bed with a cover? So the dormitory does have Wi-Fi. From what we heard from, depending on the dormitory where you're staying, the Wi-Fi connection might be better, might be worse somewhere. So I would recommend you to get this device that, how you say it, strengthens the connection so that the Wi-Fi connection is more stable. But from what I heard from the services, they improved that and now everything works all right. The kitchen, the kitchen with plates and bed with a cover. We'll need to check. In some, depending on the dormitory again, in some dormitories, they do keep the plates and pans and everything from previous students, and some they don't. So depending on where you're staying, and again, the same goes with the linen in different dormitories. So majorly exchange students come into, we have 3 dormitories where our exchange students normally stay, and they tend to provide students with pretty much everything. So yeah, if not, all our dormitories are pretty conveniently located, so you will be able to get to a convenience store and buy, things that you need for the first couple of days before you go to IKEA or, I don't know, somewhere else.
That's it with the questions, right?
Yeah.
So far, yeah. One thing that I just thought about when I was looking at this nice picture that I have found is that, not really connected to the estimated living cost, is that Moscow so far is not yet very friendly to people who do not know the Cyrillic alphabet, because most inscriptions and most signage is in Cyrillic, is in Russian. Luckily nowadays, the metro stations are already even in both Russian and Latin, and Cyrillic and Latin alphabet. And also, when you're on the metro, the loudspeakers, they announce the stations in both Russian and English. But when you come, for example, to a restaurant, that's a pretty common menu that you will see, and kind of a recommendation. Maybe you could think about learning the alphabet. I mean, that's just like not 33 letters. And the thing is that, for example, if you knew the alphabet, you could read half of this menu without any problems, because, for example, one of the like bottom inscriptions is Pepsi Light, which is like easy to translate, or Evian, or for example, what do we have here? Well, quite a few inscriptions that you could understand even if you didn't know Russian, but you could read the Cyrillic. So it's a kind of recommendation that I think could help you getting your way around the city and in the restaurants. Okay. One more thing to mention also is that we have our own Shabelovka body program that we started some time ago. Actually, you can see on the picture our students. This year we had a great Maslenitsa party. Maslenitsa is Mardi Gras of party organized by our students. So you can request a body, and you see again a QR code that can take you to the web page where you can request a body. You're asked there to share what interests you have, so that we could match you to somebody who has similar interests. So that, for example, if you're more into music, you could go to concerts and learn something about Russian music. If you're more into, I don't know, arts or sports, you'd have somebody who thinks alike, so a soulmate. And also the buddies are there for you to help you get, to help you adjust to life in Moscow, become part of the GSB community, and join all kinds of clubs that we have. And we'll also remind you that we'll also have an ASN community, like a larger university ASN community that organizes all kinds of interesting trips that you can embark on, and if you want to travel around Russia and go outside of the city and so on. So you're very welcome to make a request for a body. Okay, and well, the last thing to mention here is the pre-departure checklist. That's like pretty much for you to use before your departure. Speaking of documents, what you need to have in your purse, like the passport, visa, tickets, health insurance, health certificate for the dorm, and digital copies of all documents, the essential contacts of your embassy, your coordinator, that is Yekaterina or mine, your body, and the dormitory. Obviously, just reminding you that you should have the address of the dormitory with you, because when you arrive to the airport, and you take the Air Express and come to Moscow, actually you would need to know where your dorm is. If you have a buddy, they can meet you at the train station and help you to get to the dorm. Otherwise, you can always take a taxi, but for that you would need to show the address of the dorm. Speaking about money, actually you just need petty cash, that is 3,000, 5,000 rubles, but everything is in Moscow works pretty much on cards. You can have, you can pay with cards, I think, everywhere you want. You can also pay with mobile apps. So I haven't had any money in my wallet for several months, I guess, because I very rarely find any request actually to pay in cash. So just have that in mind. I think that's something also important. Also have in mind that you need to have a recharged laptop, mobile phone, a charger, because yes, you can charge your appliances more or less everywhere because, for example, upon arrival at the airport, if your batteries have died, you have a place where you can charge them. In the city, most restaurants have a possibility to charge a phone, so that's really not a problem. So just like carry it around with you. And yeah, make sure that your home provider has a roaming agreement with the Russian mobile company. But otherwise, I just remind you that it will be much cheaper and more convenient to purchase a SIM card here and to work with the Russian provider because like they are really, really cheap. And speaking actually about the internet, I mean, for example, if you have trouble even like at the dorm, the the regular internet that you have from your provider is in Moscow is really cheap. Speaking of medication, that's something important because you know that medication may be different in different countries. So if you are taking on a regular basis some pills that you're used to, then it's not guaranteed that you will have them here. I mean, we have all the main generic of medication, but still make sure that if you're used to something that you have it with you. Otherwise, in Moscow, a lot of medication is sold in the pharmacies without prescription. You just have to say like if you have a sore throat or a running nose, and usually they would advise you something and could help you with that. And appropriate clothing, since you're coming for the basically for the fall and winter season, you are like really advised to bring something really warm because it starts snowing in November. Usually the first snow comes then like on the 4th of November, something like that.
Sometimes in
And
October.
yeah, sometimes in October, right? And of even September, I mean, sometimes it gets already quite cold. So make sure that you have warm boots with warm lining, not something that you would be wearing during the mid season. So just have that in mind that that's important. Otherwise, of course, within the buildings, it's quite warm. So for example, at the dorm or at the university, I don't know, like you can have a warm sweater, but otherwise, like nobody ever gets cold like inside the buildings. The heating system works very well in Russia. I mean, I actually prefer to heat our buildings up to like 25 degrees, I think, something like that. Okay, and I guess that's more or less it. Um, so I can go back anywhere to any slide if you didn't catch something, or maybe some of you were late and didn't get like some piece of information. Or any questions about any topic that we have covered?
Yes, there are questions. So the last one that just came is, do you recommend buying a Russian cell phone number on arrival at the airport, or is it even possible? I'm not really sure that it's possible to buy a Russian SIM card upon your arrival and straight at the airport, because to buy a SIM card, you have to provide your passport details. And I believe that you also have to provide them with the registration. So if you're staying at the dormitory, your registration will be ready within first like 3 days or something. So you will be able to go and purchase a SIM card right after you received your registration slip. So that's not going to be a problem, but probably not right at the airport. And there were other questions that we skipped during the presentation. So the question was from Teresa. I have already spoken to my visa office in Munich, and they said they would issue me a visa for 90 days with the invitation. I'll do that right away, right? So, Teresa, you're a German citizen, so the system for German citizens is slightly different. So you guys are lucky because you will be able to apply for multiple entry visa straight away. But to do so, you will need to have the original visa invitations that were actually sent to your home university coordinators, to your international offices. They should arrive soon, we hope. And then when you get there, you collect your visa invitation with this document, with your acceptance letter, and other documents that are required by, well, the consulate, because, well, the documents might differ from consulate to consulate, so you better double check what documents are required. So with these documents, you go and you apply for a visa. Right now, if you want to do it right now, of course, you can print a scan of your visa invitation and apply for a single entry visa for 90 days. But then again, you will have to come to Russia and apply for your multiple entry visa to pay this fee and wait, and then you won't be able to leave the country within these 90 days. So we would recommend you to apply for a multiple entry visa straight away. And Germany is actually the only country which citizens are allowed to do that. Okay. The next question was from Dominic. Do the arrival dates 19th, 20th of August take into account for the 3 days isolation? Well, it's not that they take into account these 3 days of isolation. It's just the 19th of August is the earliest day when you can actually arrive to Russia. So the orientation session is planned for not earlier than the 23rd of August. So probably it's going to be a bit later, like 25th. So we actually recommend you arriving on the 19th or the 23rd, the 20th, sorry, of August to have these 3 days of self-isolation. The next question is from Fabian. Do you know whether we need to book the flight back in advance to receive the visa? No, actually, I know the students sometimes, well, it depends, again, on your decision, but it's not a requirement as far as I know. So I know the students sometimes buy their return tickets right before they decide to go back in January. So it's not exactly a requirement to buy a return ticket straight away. And especially that is the next question. No, not the next. So anyway, there was a question about whether we recommend to buy the return tickets after you know the schedule for your exams. Well, actually, yes. We do not recommend you buying plane tickets on, let's say, 23rd of December, because after the 23rd of December, you still might have some exams. We actually sometimes have exams on the 30th of December, and this is it's typical because our Christmas is actually in January, so that's why we do not have this Christmas break at the end of December. So please keep that in mind. Sometimes it's possible to arrange the earlier examination for exchange students if they have a very serious reason to go back to their home country. And in this case, they might take some tests, or a professor gives them some sort of assignment that they can submit when they are back to their home country. But this is a case-by-case scenario, and we still do not recommend you doing that. So please plan your time wisely and mind that the semester actually ends on December the 30th. And actually, Moscow is very beautiful during the New Year's holidays. So you might want to actually stay these 3 days, first 3 days of the New Year of January with us, and to actually enjoy Moscow, because, well, Moscow on January the 1st is something that you don't see any other day because it's just empty. and very beautiful. There's another question. So from Giselle, should we wait to have our exam scheduled? Yeah, well, I just answered that before booking a plane ticket for departure. The next question is from Laura. What is the latest time Moscow can resume flights with my country, Austria? So in fact, Russia has already resumed flight connection with Austria, and your visa invitation is actually being issued right now. So I hope I will be able to get back to you, Laura, either tomorrow or early next week with your visa invitation. So yes, Austria is on the list and you will be able to come to Russia.
Yeah, I just want, just in case, the list that we provided in today's presentation is the list of the latest addition to the bigger list of countries that have resumed flight connections. So do not see it as the final list, actually. It's just like the ones who have been waiting for quite long can be happy because, okay, we have already Belgium on the list, but you have to look at the bigger list of the countries that have connection with Russia.
Yeah. And then the next part of the question from Laura is, do you have any idea how long the visa process can take? It actually depends on how busy your consulate or embassy or visa center is. Normally it's 10 days, but sometimes it might take up to a month. So considering that you will receive your visa invitation, okay, let's say next week, you still have a lot of time to apply for your visa and to receive it on time and to arrive in Russia on, I don't know, August 19th. Well,
maybe I will. Giselle is asking about registration. Where do we have to make our registration to be able to have a private flat? Well, the thing is that it's not like you go to a registration office and then find a flat. It's the other way around. You find a flat and then with your landlord, you go to a registration office and usually the landlord knows where it's located. I think that for you it will be just not so easy to find it, to figure it out. That's why actually we're saying that it's slightly more complicated because the landlord somehow has to take some initiative in this process. And you're asking about booking a flight even if you don't have a visa yet.
No, we wouldn't recommend doing that. I mean, although we're pretty confident that you will get your student visa, we still do not recommend you buying plane tickets before you have received your visa. Please check the requirements on the website of the consulate. So if they require actually that you provide them with plane tickets, if they require you to show them the return plane tickets, well, that's fine. But normally they don't do that. And especially if you're applying for a student visa, your visa invitation and your acceptance letter are the two main documents that are required.
Teresa is asking about a difference between acceptance letter and a visa invitation. Or they are different documents, but your main document that you need to apply for a visa is a visa invitation.
Yes, but there is a difference. So visa invitation is the paper that is accepted by the ministry and issued basically by the ministry or either by HSE University, because we are an authorized body, by the Ministry of Internal Affairs to issue such invitations for our students. But this is a separate document. In your acceptance letter, there is an information about who you are, where you're coming, for what dates, what you're going to do, in what capacity, and this is additional information for the officers that are going to deal with your documents. So these two documents are separate. An acceptance letter is actually a helpful addition to your application. So this is not the same. Visa invitation is absolutely a must. Without a visa invitation, you won't be able to apply for a visa, and acceptance letter is a helpful addition. So again, there is another question from Teresa. So I'm a German citizen and also apply for the visa here in Germany. However, I'm studying in Vienna, but my first place of residence is in Germany. Is it possible to come from Vienna by plane as they are not on the list at the moment? No, unfortunately, no. So if you're applying for a visa as a German citizen and you're doing so in Germany, you will have to come from Germany. We do understand that this is a bit confusing, and many students actually are asking this question. But just to be on the safe side and not have any problems at the border, please do come from Germany. From the country of your residence, of where you're applying for your visa. This is very important at this period of time when, well, things are very unstable with the COVID. Normally, this is not like this, of course. Okay, the next question from Dominic. If my country is not on the list yet, Czechia, what is the latest date when it would have to be added to study in Moscow? Is it 1908 minus the time it takes to issue the visa at my embassy? So it's 8 to 3 weeks. No, actually, there is no the latest date because we understand that the situation is changing all the time, and well, it doesn't depend basically on anything, and that the government makes this decision and we can never predict when and how it will happen. So even if Czechia or any other country makes it to the list when the semester has already started, we will be able to issue a visa invitation for you and you will just arrive later. This is also an option, but we cannot say that after August 19th, we won't be issuing visa invitations for our students because we very want you all guys to come to Moscow and enjoy your exchange semester in full. So we're just hoping for the best that all the countries that we're expecting our exchange students from will be open before the semester actually starts, but we cannot plan for that, unfortunately. Okay.
So any more questions, guys?
Our home university coordinator told that we will receive the visa invitation from here, but I did not receive the acceptance letter yet. Actually, the acceptance letters were sent out to your home university coordinators. Some of you received them directly from us, but still, if you haven't received your acceptance letter, shoot us an email and I will send it to you straight away. For the visa invitation, again, the visa invitations are only being issued for students for the citizens of the countries that are on the list. So if your country is not or has not been on the list before a couple of days ago, then, well, your visa invitation is not ready yet. But when it's ready, it will be sent to you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another question that I received right before the webinar started today. So I think it's also important to mention it that in order to get Russian visa, you will have to take an HIV test. This is true, like this is listed on every consulate, on every Russian embassy website, that in addition to all the other documents that they might ask from you, they require you to submit an HIV negative test results. When do we have to take the test before applying for a visa? Yeah, so you will have to submit the certificate together with the other documents. So basically you have to prove, Probably, sorry, maybe that was wrong. Probably you will just have to submit the certificate, either it's positive or negative, but this is just a requirement.
Okay, so well, maybe if there are no more questions in relation to the information that we provided you with, then we can wrap it up for today. You know that you can always write to us if any new questions come up. But we really hope that it was clear today. We really tried to, to show you that Moscow is waiting for you and is ready to welcome you. So, shall we then call it a day?
I think so.
Okay, guys, it was really great, not unfortunately seeing you, but hearing from you. And then we'll keep in touch. So ask us about anything if you have any further questions, and then we'll be in touch, right? Yeah, you too. Have a good day.
Have a good day, guy.